Greetings, everyone. So I just wanted to share something with you guys. And I by no means am I an expert, but I thought this would be interesting to see what happens when somebody's passport is lost or stolen. I've never gone through that. I had a close call once in France, but we found our passports. But this is what a person can do if they don't know where their passport is, or maybe somebody took their passport. They haven't seen their passport in a long time. They're not sure where it is. They don't have an idea where it is. You can report your passport lost or stolen at the travelstate.gov, U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Consular Affairs. Okay, report my passport lost or stolen. This is for the U.S. passports. I'm going to get into other countries just to see what you need to do. So you definitely need to protect yourself from identity theft. Use one of 3 ways to report it lost or stolen. So there's online. Let's click on that. Oh, it's kind of hard to read. Travel.state.gov, U.S. passport applications and forms. Before you may enter your personal information to get a passport, you must review the U.S. Department of State's Privacy and Computer Fraud and Abuse Acts. You could do this in the library. I have read the Privacy and Computer Fraud and Abuse Acts. So I'll just click on that. We're just going to pretend we're reading the whole thing because there's going to be a lot. Many of our programs and websites allow you to send us an email, automatically collected information. They have to do that for safety reasons. Okay, typical stuff. I have read. I'm going to pretend I've read just because we want to just go through it and see what's in here. I'm sure a librarian at the library could help someone if they needed it. What you'll need: most recent passport book, if applicable, a printer, Adobe, Acrobat Reader. Again, library. I've already made the print bigger and it's just really small. Let's just look to see what it looks like. So report lost or stolen. Okay, there's a little button. So you can fill out online and print. You can fill out the following forms: application for a U.S. passport, renewal application, data corrections, like maybe if you got married or divorced, name changes and limited validity passports, report lost or stolen. I'm just going in here just to see what it's about. That's all. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Just put your name. See how easy that is? And maybe you have a friend or something, or maybe you're renting a room at someone's house, or you're a guest at your cousin's house. I believe you could have it sent to their address as long as you're staying there. Occupation. You might be able to put student, like if you're going to school, or maybe you're unemployed. You could, let's say you're training to do something, you could put that in your occupation, employer or school. Same thing. See what they have next here. Oh, they probably aren't going to let me do that. So that's okay. Let's go back. Just wanted you guys to see. So, I mean, if you haven't seen your passport in a long time, like you don't know where it is, you can get a new one. Okay, by mail. You could do it by mail if you wanted to. It's going to take you longer. They also have información en español. Let's see what the español looks like, if that's your first language. I'm not going to do translate. We're going to cancel. Pasaportes perdidos o robados. I know how to pronounce it. I don't always know what I'm reading. Por favor, informenos. Where to report it lost or stolen. To write por correo. If you're in the United States, entonces. So that's nice. Like if Spanish is your main language that you learned, they have it in Spanish. That's nice. Okay. In person when you apply for a new passport. So most, especially large cities, there's always somewhere you can go. Want to immediately replace your valid lost or stolen passport. And again, I want to read this, you guys. So just so you know, reporting it lost or stolen does not replace it. So you can report it lost or stolen, but it doesn't necessarily replace. So what it says is you've got to apply in person. They have to do that. They have to make sure there's no fraud going on. You know, fraud like Scientology is good in. Ways to report your lost or stolen passport online. It's so easy. And let's say English is not your first language and they don't have it in your language. You could get a friend that you trust to help you. Or there might be, I imagine, I've never been at one of these places, well, maybe many years ago. I can't remember it. But you might be able to find someone who speaks your language to help you as well. Can someone travel using only my passport number? Okay, how do I cancel the passport of a deceased relative? Can I travel if I find my passport after reporting it lost or stolen? No. If you reported your passport lost or stolen, it is no longer valid. But don't worry, you can get another one. Okay, I'm going to pause. Just give me a minute here. Okay, there we go. So I just for the heck of it, I thought, well, let's suppose you are a Brazilian citizen and you've moved to the United States for whatever reason. Maybe you're on that, what is it called, R1 visa. If you lost your passport and you're originally from Brazil, you don't have a United States passport yet, you would have to report it, and I just use Brazil as an example. U.S. Embassy and Consulate in Brazil. Okay. Announcement. Beginning April 15, 2024, the U.S. Embassy and Consulates in Brazil will accept online fee payments for U.S. citizens applying for U.S. passports in Brazil. So you would already have to be a United States citizen. To request a U.S. passport, please use our passport wizard. That would be something above my pay grade. I don't understand what that's about. Let's say children's passport application. Let's just say your child, or say your mom or guardians needs to apply for a new passport. Let's see what it is. Or this is maybe to apply for a new passport. Oh, I guess the passport wizard is what they use. Emergency passport, lost or stolen. Let's say it's lost or stolen. You don't know where it is. You came to America, you had a passport, and now you haven't seen your passport in a long time. If your passport has been lost or stolen, it should be reported immediately to help protect yourself against identity theft and to prevent someone else from using the passport. Okay, so if you're Brazilian, if you are originally from Brazil, you're a Brazilian citizen, you may electronically submit DS-64 to report your passport lost or stolen. Click the following link to get started. Let's see what it looks like. So by the way, you guys, you could go to the library and use their computers for free. So it took us to the same thing here. Travel.state.gov, a service of the Bureau of Consular Affairs, U.S. Department of State. I don't need to go back through that. We already went through that. Okay. frequently asked questions. I have downloaded the passport forms and note that the instructions in the forms are different from those on this website. Which should I follow? Most of the instructions on the passport forms refer to passport applications processed in the United States. You would fill out the same form but should follow the instructions on this website. If I don't plan to travel back to the United States anytime soon. Okay, so that's going to be talking about somebody who's in Brazil right now, I believe. Why should I renew my passport now? Okay, now we're talking about U.S. citizens. It gets really complicated. That makes sense. So, like, say if you're a U.S. citizen and you don't plan on going back to the United States, they're saying you should always have valid proof of citizenship. That makes sense. A valid passport is required for many Brazilian administrative processes, or suppose you wanted to go back to your home country. In the event of an emergency involving a family member abroad, a short notice airfare bargain, or an unexpected business trip, already having a valid U.S. passport. You guys, this is not what I was looking for. I'm trying to help, and I'm just probably causing more problems. Okay, hold on. Okay, so this is U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Just for general information, R1 non-immigrant religious workers, ministers and non-ministers. You guys know how many people are calling themselves ministers now. In religious vocations and occupations, may come to the U.S. temporarily, for the purpose of performing religious work, not auditing. General eligibility. An R1 non-immigrant is a non-citizen. That means, like, and I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just trying to break it down so it's a little easier to understand. So if you're not from America, that, you know, you're a non-citizen, you're not a citizen here of America yet, who is coming to the United States temporarily to work, at least part-time, an average of 20 hours per week. Well, I would say in Scientology, you'll get that 20 hours the first 2 days. As a minister or in a religious vocation or occupation and be employed by a nonprofit religious organization in the United States, religious organization that is authorized by a group tax exemption holder to use its group tax exemption, or nonprofit organization which is affiliated with a religious denomination in the United States. Okay, we get it. We get it. What's this? I want to see, like, I read somewhere how long a person can have that. You could get an R1 visa with an employer. So let's say you came to America on the presumption that you were going to get this visa as a religious worker, as a volunteer. And I'm not giving any legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an immigration specialist. But how I'm understanding this is a religion is not the only entity that could sponsor you, like an employer could. So if you were to get a job, certain jobs you might be able to get sponsored and stay in America, I believe. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but that's just an option. A prospective or existing U.S. employer. See, you'd have to look into all the details because I'm not an expert on all this. Of course, they don't cover children, you know. Years ago, I dated an East Indian man, and he taught me a lot about this stuff. Proof of salaried or non-salaried compensation. Boy, do they go into a lot of stuff here. Wow. Wow. Okay, here's what I want to look at. Period of stay. We may grant R1 status for initial period of admission for up to 30 months. So that would be a little over 2 years. And a subsequent extension for up to an additional 30 months. So in other words, like if you're in any kind of religion here in America, you need to be applying for extensions. If you got an R1 visa, you can be here for up to 30 months and subsequent extensions for up to an additional 30 months. So that would be, I don't know, like somewhere over 4 years. Your total period of stay in the United States in R1 classification cannot exceed 5 years. Okay, I was about right. So, see, anybody can learn this stuff online. You're not always in prison the way you think you are. An R1 religious worker spouse and unmarried children under the age of 21 may be eligible for R2 classification. An R2 dependent is not authorized to work based on this visa classification. Green cards. I remember hearing a lot about that. Because you do want to get a green card. These R1 visas must be on file somewhere. Okay, I'm going to look something else up. Okay, listen up. Anyone who is a religious worker from other country working in the United States as a religious worker. So I just looked up, how does a person with an R1 visa apply for citizenship? Which would give you a lot of freedom if you get your citizenship. Once a person has the required 2 years of experience as a religious worker, so you could be a Scientologist for 2 years, you could be a Mormon, whatever it is. The first step is for the U.S. employer. Now tell me that's not confusing. Tell me that's not confusing. With U.S. citizenship. So, okay, now they switch to U.S. employer. This is AI, so go figure. The key information. So the form that you would have to fill out is the I-360 petition form. Hold on, let me check this out. So a green card. Let's see, this is getting a little confusing. Learn how churches and religious organizations can initially employ workers on a temporary visa and then move forward with green card sponsorship. I believe you could get green card on your own as well if you don't want to stay in the religion. R1 visa holders who are currently working in the United States as ministers, you see how they do this? Or in a religious vocation, or a volunteer, have a fairly simple route to obtaining a green card to become U.S. lawful permanent residents. The requirements, this is also tells me a lot about the marriages. That's another way people get citizenship. The requirements to qualify for an R1 visa and green card are very similar. One key distinction is that the person applying for a green card as a religious worker must, as a prerequisite, have 2 years of qualifying employment as a religious worker. Why do they call it employment? You see the tricky stuff that goes on? You know, like in Scientology, they call people volunteers. The R1 visa provides a convenient way for people to gain that 2 years of experience in the United States, a simple route to the green card for a religious worker. Therefore, is to obtain the R1 visa, work for 2 years, and then have the same or another employer start the green card process. So let's say you're a Scientologist and you've been in America for 2 years working as a volunteer. You can apply for a green card. Or you could, let's say you got a job. Let's say you're in Los Angeles and you got a nice job. Your employer can help you apply for the green card. Does an intending immigrant need to get an R1 visa before a green card? It is not necessary to have an R1 visa first in order to apply for a green card. Also, too, if you got a green card, you can do whatever you want to do. I know from experience. But the green card does not last forever, so you would have to eventually apply for citizenship. Oh, here it is, just what I was saying. How to proceed from R1 visa status to permanent residence. Here's an overview of the steps by which an R1 visa holder would move forward to obtaining a U.S. green card. And also, and I'm not endorsing this, but I do know that some people in the from different countries, come to America and they fall in love with someone and they get married. There's fraud, but I'm not saying every marriage is a fraud. To obtaining a U.S. green card. Step 1, employer files I-360 petition. What an interesting number that is. 36 plus 0 is 36. The form I-360 can be a bit confusing because it is used for various types of immigration cases. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Employer attestation. So basically your employer is vowing for you. So you'd have to be in some type of employment that they know it's, I don't want to put words out there, that the employer must also attest to details concerning the proposed employment. Proof of nonprofit status. Proof of ability to pay. That means, okay, we're going to explain what that means. So the employer will also need to include evidence of its ability to pay the offered wages, such as W-2 forms showing wages paid to the employee or other employees, annual reports, financial statements, or tax returns. So what would you rather do? Would you rather be working for an organization that is making you work 80 to 100-hour weeks for $47? Or go find yourself a nice job? It doesn't even have to be white collar, it doesn't have to be computer or desk jobs. You can get other types of employment. Just look into it. I don't want to give the bad advice. But, you could probably be making really good money versus $47 a week, I think it is. Evidence of membership. Include documentation of the employee's membership in the religious denomination. Okay, that's if you're doing it through the religion. I don't want to concentrate on all this religious stuff. Proof of 2 years experience. You see how they get people? Employee adjusts status in the United States or applies for an immigrant visa at U.S. consulate abroad. See, that's what I was talking about. I understand certain countries are a little slower. I heard that Brazil takes a long time to do stuff. Adjustment application in the United States. Beneficiaries, current or future employee. Wow, this is complicated. Applying for an immigrant visa at a U.S. consulate abroad. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to give advice that is just screwed up. But anyways, you can read. I'm just trying to show people what's out there. Hold on. Okay, you guys. I really wanted to help. This is very complicated, but I think if you really needed some help to understand what you need to do to be able to leave and be free somewhere in the United States, you could talk to an immigration lawyer and they could help you. They would give you better advice. Don't trust every single one of them, but I do think there's probably some good immigration lawyers out there. Can I apply for a green card through my R1 visa status? This is AI. Yes, if you have an R1 visa. You are eligible to apply for a green card after you have been on your visa for 2 years. I'm going to look something up. Okay, this is what I wanted to look. Check this out, you guys. So U.S. Department of State. So let's just say you can't find your documentation. You don't know where it is. How to request visa records. Let's say they disappeared into thin air, like you don't know where they are. And maybe someone's kind of holding you hostage because of this visa paperwork. There's a way to find proof of your visa status. So here's U.S. Department of State, Freedom of Information Act. Step 1, determine where the records you are seeking are kept. The Department of State maintains the following visa records: correspondence previously sent to or given to the applicant by the post. Like, if your paperwork was given, if it was given to the State Department, which by law they should be giving, whatever religion you're affiliated with, whether it's Scientology, Mormonism, Catholicism, whomever is like sponsoring you is with the visa. Civil documents presented by the applicant. Visa applications and any other documents submitted by the applicant to the department in the form in which they were submitted. So basically what I understand by that, so like however, when you arrived to America, however your visa was applied for, whether you applied for it, whether your parents applied for it, whether the guardian applied for it, whether an organization applied for it, there should be some type of record. So if you go in to one of these offices, you tell them how you think it was recorded. Does that make sense? Inquiries on visa cases in progress overseas should be made to the appropriate U.S. embassy. So for some reason, say you decided to go back home and you were able to go back to your home country, if you were able to do this, you could go to the U.S. embassy or consulate in your home country. Immigration records for individuals who already immigrated to the United States and have been issued a permanent resident alien card, also known as a green card, are with the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So by law, whether it was you, whether it was your parents, whether it was in a guardian or a church, whomever, by law, these records have to be on file. If they're not on file, that means whomever brought you here is breaking the law, not you necessarily. You know what I mean? Like if you were under the impression that those papers were filed. For more information on where visa records are maintained, you may wish to view the record's contact information. Request for individual access to records. Let's see what that is. Well, that's easy enough. So this one cost you a cent to do this. You know, if you're staying with your auntie or your uncle or maybe a friend, you could list that as an address as long as you're staying there and would never tell you to lie about something. So easy. You could even go to the library and do this. Full name, current address. If you do have trouble with English, I'm sure someone could help you. It's really fairly easy, I think, even if you were, English was not your first language, it's kind of easy to understand. Place of birth, citizenship status. if your citizenship status is unknown, you could put unknown. And there's a lot of people that can help you with this, especially certain cities that are larger and have more immigrant population. Consent for disclosure of records protected under the Privacy Act. I want to see what that is. Consent for disclosure of records protected under the Privacy Act. If you are providing consent and authorizing the agency to disclose your records to another person or entity, you guys know where that's going. That would, to me, that tells me like certain religions would want you to give them consent. I would say don't give consent. Okay, something else I'm going to look up, and then I'm going to go. My mouth is dry. Okay. Like I said, immigration lawyer, but I know when I was living in Milwaukee, there were various social work jobs that I was doing, and there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that help people from various parts of the world with their immigration issues, free of charge. They don't ask for money. Let's see. Okay. So just for the heck of it, I clicked in Los Angeles. I'm not sure if this is just Los Angeles, though. But I know all big cities, like even my city that I lived in, they had that. Immigration nonprofit, we're all immigrants. I really don't like, Google always puts the stuff that nobody knows about. Okay, here we go. Catholic Charities is pretty good. I've gotten help from them in the past for different things. Assist immigrants and refugees. Family visa petitions, adjustment of status applications, consular visa processing, naturalization. And you can go to these agencies and it is private. Nobody else is going to know what you're doing. The Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. And there are a lot of lawyers that do pro bono work for this kind of stuff. During this pandemic, so that was during the COVID stuff, CHIRLA, Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. Who is eligible for Medi-Cal? Oh, so if you need help with medications or doctor and you don't have any insurance. Green card holders age 19 to 64. And we need to learn. I'm going to look more into green card stuff. I'm not an expert, and I never will be. But let's see. Regardless of their immigration status, California children under 19 qualify for full scope Medi-Cal. Survivors of domestic violence or those in the process of adjusting their legal status may also be able to receive Medi-Cal. Undocumented people are eligible for emergency Medi-Cal. So if you had a really serious medical issue. Oh, I don't want to get into all this stuff. Hold on. Let's try something else. So, they keep doing this, so let's see. Los Angeles immigration legal aid and pro bono services. I personally think legal aid is just kind of sucks. But maybe it's just because it was always so busy and I didn't have a lot of help. Public Counsel, Central American Resource Center, Los Angeles, Legal Aid Foundation. I shouldn't just write them off. They probably do some good work. But it's hard to get them. So this is sponsored. Let's see what this is. Transformation happens together. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, Lord have mercy. I can't right now. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. Let's see what this is. Helping low-income immigrants find legal help. Oh, there's a lot here. I knew there would be. This is a little, what do you call these things? I forgot what this is called. ABA Immigration Justice Project of San Diego. That's not Los Angeles. Access California Services. I'm just trying to show you how much help is out here. And if you wanted to keep it private and not other people know, you could do that. Office of Immigrant Affairs, County of Los Angeles. There's a lot. Catholic Charities has a lot here. The Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. Green Card Through Marriage. Green Card Through Marriage is a K-1 visa. Wow. Affordable Immigration Aid. UCLA Civil Rights Project. Anyways, you guys see there's a lot of help. So that's just what I wanted to cover today. So I hope that was helpful. Kind of lets people know that there's so many free resources out here. People want to help. You need to understand that you really are not alone. You're not. The best way that people can keep other people in prison is to make them think that there's nobody out to help them, that they're all alone, that they're isolated, that they're going to be deported back to their country, that their family doesn't love them. And that's a lie, and that is put out there in order to control you. So you need to understand that there are a lot of people out here willing to help you. So I hope that helped. Peace.